Hey, what's up, folks? Will here back once again for another fight card prediction. How's everybody been? It feels like it's been a long time since I made some video predictions. I've had a really nice month off from looking at fights all the time and just spending time with my little girl. So it's been nice, but I'm really looking forward to getting back into this running till the end of 2017 with some big fights coming up. Coming off Mayweather-McGregor last night, which I thought was a great spectacle. But let's not speak about that. Let's talk about this upcoming card. First of all, I just want to say today, or yesterday I should say now, we recorded the very first episode of the MMA Huddle, which is probably going to be out tomorrow. You can watch it on YouTube. We're going to get it on SoundCloud. We're going to get it on iTunes. So literally come and support us. That's where we're going to be a fan-friendly podcast, kind of made for the fans. Me and John, who present it, are both just fight fans. So send your questions in there, some suggestions if you've got it for things you would like on the show. And just come, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and here on YouTube. And yeah, just come and support us. Really looking forward to doing that week in, week out, and just talking about the sport that we love. This week we talked obviously about Mayweather-McGregor, the John Jones saga, which is crazy, Bryan Stan leaving the UFC, and a little bit about UFC Rotterdam. And we will get into more topics as we're going forward. Overall, this is your kind of run-of-the-mill European card. It's taken some big hits over the last few days. I mean, Germaine de Randamie's pulled out with a hand injury, which we knew she already had until she was going to fight, which was a little bit weird. So hopefully Marion Renault gets an opponent. It's not on any of the listings here that she has an opponent. Zabit Magomedsharipov did get an opponent that stepped in here. So looking forward to getting into this. I won't be watching the card live. I'll actually be working. So as soon as I finish work at midnight, early Sunday morning, I'll be home to watch this card, or some of the bits through in the card I'll watch throughout the week. But I am already doing tape for UFC 215, which I'm looking to get out some point during this week here. So, which is Demetrius Johnson against Ray Borg, Amanda Nunes v Valentina Shevchenko 2. So there's not really a running bout order for this fight here, so I'm just going to start at the announce bouts. As I can see at the bottom there, I'm going to start off with Andrew Holbrook against Thibault Gauthier down there. I like Andrew Holbrook in this one. I don't think, as I said, when Thibault Gauthier was supposed to face Dong Hyun Kim, I was very surprised that they kept him around for another fight, and then he pulled out with I think it was an illness literally hours before he was due to fight, and just not a solid UFC fighter at all. He's just not an MMA level, a UFC level fighter in any capacity whatsoever. Andrew Holbrook, I don't think he's a great fighter by any means, but I think he's very solid. I think he struggles, obviously, against power hitters like he has in the past, especially his last fight against Gregor Gillespie. He got taken out very, very quickly there. So the way I see this fight going, I think Holbrook eventually, I think Gauthier might get off to a good start, but I can see Holbrook rushing in for takedowns, getting takedowns on pushing him against the fence, getting takedowns from that, and taking him down from there. And I think once it goes to the ground, Holbrook has a very good opportunity to submit Thibault Gauthier maybe late on. So the way I'm seeing this going is maybe in the third round, after Gauthier is maybe blown a little hard and just struggling, maybe lost a couple of rounds. I can just see grappling being a big thing in this fight, and Andrew Holbrook getting maybe a late finish. I'm going to go a third round finish for Andrew Holbrook. I don't rate Thibault Gauthier all that much. Moving on to the featherweight division, we have Zabit Magomedsharipov versus Mike Santiago, who's coming in here late notice for the injured Nick Hine. Zabit Magomedsharipov is a guy that I've known about for a few years, and the guy is really, really legit, and I think he's going to be a great addition to the 145-pound division. Really solid striker, very quick reactions, spinning back kicks to the body especially. He's got really quick reactions, and he hurts you in those aspects of the fight. Once he gets down on the ground, heavy ground and pound, very patient down there. I forget the name of his opponent. It was a Brazilian guy. You can find all his Zabit's fights pretty much on YouTube. Guy's a destroyer. Was the ACB champion, which is a legit promotion over there in Russia, and it's moving over here to the UK and Brazil and America, I think, soon enough. So just a legit guy. I think still fairly young. Works with Mark Henry out there in New Jersey. I know he's out there quite a bit, sharpening his tools and training and sparring with some really good guys. Really looking forward to seeing him in the UFC. Don't think an awful lot of people really know about him, but I think he's got the potential to be a very, very good top 10 UFC fighter in the next few years. Mike Santiago, great story with this. He literally fought. Now it's early Monday morning here in the UK, but he fought last Tuesday. The Tuesday past, he fought on Dana White's Contender Series, and he won via TKO in round number 1. I think it was against Gabriel Checo, if I remember right, and looked very good in doing so, and has now been brought in here to face Zabit literally 10 days after his last fight. It's pretty crazy. I thought he deserved a contract in that show. I wasn't sure about Benito Lopez getting the contract, even though I actually quite like Benito Lopez as a fighter. I've knew about him for a few years, but I thought Santiago maybe deserved it a little bit more than what he did. I just think it's a little bit too much. He's going to have to try and make the weight again 2 times in literally less than 2 weeks. That's a lot of toll on your body, flying across the other side of the world as well, and against a legit guy. I think Zabit's going to kind of break him down a little bit here, and I can see him getting a finish in the first round. So I'm going to pick Zabit Magomedsharipov, first round TKO victory there. Light heavyweight division, Bojan Mihajlovic against Abdul-Kerim Edilov. Bojan is a tomato can. He's going to get crushed here. He's literally been brought in here just to really lose to this guy. Bojan has really showed me nothing in his UFC venture so far. Losses to Francis Ngannou and Joachim Christensen. I just think Edilov is... I think he's been brought in here for the win pretty much. I don't think he's anything special. He popped... I think USADA popped this guy over a year ago. It was 15, 16 months ago. He was due to fight in the UFC. Got pulled from that card due to the USADA fight, the USADA findings. I just think wherever the fight goes, he has the advantage here. Bojan is a judo black belt, I think he is as well, but he never uses it. He never has the skills to even get it close to using that. So I think Abdul's really just going to put it on him, and eventually Bojan is going to wear down, and Edilov's going to win this one via TKO. So I'm going to go a second round TKO victory there. Staying in that division, we have Francimar Barroso against Aleksander Rakic, fighting out of Austria. Watched literally in the last hour and a half. I rewatched some of his fights and his highlights, and this guy's just fighting nobodies. But I do think he has a chance to win this fight here. I think that he's got very quick reactions, he's got very fast hands, and he's got some power to put you to sleep. In some of his fights he's seen, he's got beautiful combinations where he can send guys to the ground, face plant KOs and head kick knockouts as well. But he is fighting guys who are not great, and Francimar Barroso is not, in my opinion, a great fighter in any means whatsoever. But he is a UFC veteran of many fights. He can be a little bit of a spoiler and put you against the cage and just kind of make it dirty and lean up against you and make it tired and just be a bad, boring looking fight. And this is how I feel this one might go here. But I think that if Aleksander Rakic can come out really fast, kind of like what Darren Stewart did in the first fight with Barroso, he rectified that in the second fight and won that fight there. But if you come out very quick and put your hands on this guy, I think you can beat him. I think I'm going to take the newcomer, even though he's not fought any really great competition. I think that Barroso, you can find his chin if you're aggressive, but I'm taking a little bit of a stab here on Rakic. I'm not a fan of Barroso at all, but he's a bit of a spoiler. If this goes into the mid rounds, I think that Rakic could be in big trouble eventually. But I think Rakic is going to come out and knock him out. I'm going to go a second round TKO victory there for Aleksander Rakic. Lightweight division, Rustam Khabilov versus Desmond. This is one of the fights I'm really looking forward to. Personally, I've looked at the lines and I think some of them's literally just been released over there in the US. soon to be over here in the UK and Europe. I think the line is a little bit off here. I think that Desmond Green has a really, really good chance to win this fight, and I think I'm going to pick him in this one, in all honesty. I think when it comes to the grappling, we all know that Khabilov is one of those guys who loves to grapple, is really, really good control, and just wins fights through that. I mean, he's on a 4-fight win streak, wins over Norman Park and Chris Wade in there. I forgot his other two opponents, but what he's done is pretty much get them to the ground and control them. I think Desmond Green can negate that and potentially control Rustam Khabilov. What I liked about Desmond Green in his last fight is he showed that he's got improving skills with his hands. He's working with Henry Hooft out of the combat club, and if he can put that together, Khabilov's not great with his striking, so I think that Desmond Green could take it to him in there. And I think once it gets to the grappling, he could win rounds through that. But I think it's going to be very, very close. I think it's a dog or pass type situation here. I think Desmond Green was up around the plus 300 number, which is a little crazy. I think it's probably lower now. I've not looked at the odds, the revised odds in the last few days, but I'm guessing he's probably around 250 in that region. But I'm going to pick a very smelly. I think it's going to be a very, very close, smelly fight. I think both guys will get takedowns, but I think that Desmond Green has the better control, and will win a very, very close 29-28 split decision. I just think it's an underdog at those odds. It's not a bad bet to maybe throw just a little bit of money on. So I'm going to pick Desmond Green. I'm going to pick him via 29-28 decision. Staying in that division, we have Michel Prazeres against Mads Burnell. Mads Burnell's a newcomer fighting out of Denmark. He's a guy I've watched a couple of times in the UK scene. You'll find his fights on YouTube, fighting out at Ice FC and so on. Really okay fighter coming out of there, Europe, but really, really good on the ground. He's got some mad skills down the ground, some really nice transitions, some nice innovative submissions as well. If you watch some of his BJJ matches, you'll see he's looking for inventive stuff. He's very inventive and very creative down on the ground. Just think Michel Prazeres is just too much. He's going to control him. Even if it goes to the ground, I think he's got enough in him to just control this guy and potentially... I don't think he'll submit him. I think he could maybe TKO him, but I see this just being very, very dominant for Michel Prazeres. I mean, he's coming off a really nice submission victory over Josh Burtman. That's not saying much, in all honesty, because Burtman's really on his way out. He's probably not far off retiring if he hasn't already. But I like Michel Prazeres in this one. I just think he's got too much experience. He's too bulky, too big. I think he'll get takedowns. He'll control Burnell on the ground, and he will win a very, very unanimous 30-26, 30-25 possibly for Michel Prazeres. Mairbek Taisumov against Felipe Silva. This is one of the best fights on the card. I'm seeing a lot of people write off Silva. Not many people know about Felipe Silva. He's only had the one fight in the UFC where he absolutely put a beating on Shane Campbell. I think it was last year, it might have been early this year, I can't remember. I watched the fight, first round finish there, and looked very impressive in doing so. Against Mairbek Taisumov, who we just don't see enough of this guy. I say it all the time. He has a fight scheduled, something happens, he gets pulled out, a visa issue, so on, so on. One of the best, I think he's one of the most underrated fighters coming through that division, but we just don't see him enough. All around a great, great fighter, great striker. He had a beautiful knockout over Damir Hadzovic last time. I think the odds in this one just came out. I remember this when he was minus 190, I think he was, which is not too bad. I think Silva is very tough, but I think the all-around game of Taisumov, I think, can negate Felipe Silva. On the feet, I think that Silva can get shots off in Taisumov, but I think the same for Taisumov as well. And I think that Mairbek might just mix it up a little bit, use leg kicks, and eventually I think he could wear down Felipe Silva. So, but I'm not disregarding Felipe Silva in this one. I think if he gets off to a quick start and gets the first round, it could get very close late on. But I just think that Taisumov might catch him with some clean shots, go to the body, and then go up top, and then just mix it up a little bit and win this fight. So I'm going to go an early third round TKO victory there for Mairbek Taisumov. Moving up to the welterweight division, we have Darren Till against Bojan Velickovic. A little bit disappointed with Darren Till last time out. I think he could have got Yes and Ayari out of there, if I'm being perfectly honest. But he was coming back after, I think it was like nearly a year and a half break as well, so that's going to take a toll on the body. There's going to be that little bit of rust there. He got through that fairly convincingly. I think it was like 30-26 he won that fight as well. So yeah, tough opponent here in Bojan Velickovic. I thought he was losing that fight against Nico Musoke last time out, and pulled it out the bag with a beautiful knockout in the third round. Won himself a really nice bonus as well in Sweden. Just an all-round tough guy. Nothing really stands out. He's just a really, really solid pro, and I think he can give Darren Till problems here. I really, really do. Lots of people are writing off Bojan. I'm not one of those guys. I think Darren Till, although he's a really good striker, very crisp, I just think he's blown his own trumpet a little bit too much. He's saying he's going to be the best guy in the division, and I believe he can be very good, but I think it's just that Liverpool Scouts mentality. They all think they're really, really good. They're very confident in themselves, and that's fine. You can be confident, but not overconfident. I think this is going to be close. I don't see if Darren Till can't knock him out early, I think Bojan could come on very, very late in this fight and potentially win this fight. I'm going to go with my initial thought when I first seen the fight and when I watched the tape. I just think Darren Till's a little bit more crisper, a little bit more speedier as a striker. I think he can mix up with his strikes a lot. I think Bojan's going to look to maybe try and clinch and maybe put him against the cage and try and work some dirty boxing, try and look for takedowns through that. I think in the fight with Ayari as well, Darren Till secured some takedowns. One that I remember off the top of my head. I'm a little bit dubious in this fight. I'm going to go with my original pick, which was Darren Till. I'm going to go 29-28 decision. I see this being really, really close. If Darren Till can't get him out there early, I think Bojan's going to come on late. So I'm going to pick Darren Till via decision, 29-28. Moving on to the main card. In the welterweight division, we have Leon Edwards against Bryan Bam Bam Barberena. I like Leon in this one. I think he's going to be crisp, too fast, and when he gets off and Bryan starts throwing, I don't think Bryan's got the speed to get in and and hit Leon as he's getting out. I just don't see it. And I think that Bryan, he has to land a big shot to really maybe change the way this fight's going to go. I just think that Leon, he's a really underrated fighter, and every fight he seems to be getting really, really better. Since that fight with Usman, he's just been looking very, very good. Beat Vicente Luque last time, who I really like actually, Vicente Luque. Tumanov, he submitted the guy. I never seen that one coming. So since that loss to Kamaru Usman, he's on a 3-fight win streak, and he's ever improving, and he's beaten really good guys. I mean, Tumanov and Luque are good guys. I actually think both those guys are better than Bryan Barberena, in my opinion. Barberena's a tough, tough dude, in your face, just ready to make it a scrap, make it dirty, make it grimy. But I don't think he has the speed in this one here to just win. I think that it's hard because I actually like Barberena as a fighter. He's all heart, all guts, all glory, looking to put on a scrap, and he's came through in these big spots where he's been a massive underdog. I mean, I think Charlie Prezi was a big underdog. Colby Covington, Vali Alves, he was a big one. Charlie Prezi, lost to Charlie Prezi. Sage Northcutt and Vali Alves were two fights where he came through as a massive underdog. So when he's up around that plus 300-400, maybe even higher, the guy seems to cash those bets. So not a bad pick in my opinion if you want to put a bet on. I just think he's going to be styled on. I think that Leon Edwards is just going to be too slick for him, and just over 3 rounds just pick and pop at him and win the fight via a pretty comprehensive decision for me. So I am going to pick Leon Edwards 30-27 there. Middleweight division, Siyar Bahudrazada against the newcomer Rob Wilkinson. This is the fight. Now, I I kind of think that Rob Wilkinson has a chance here. You watch the tape, and that I don't rate him whatsoever. I think he's 11-0 as a pro. But when you watch the tape, he's fighting a lot of pretty bad guys. Nothing that stands out whatsoever. But it's hard trusting Siyar considering the amount of time he takes off in fights. I mean, since December 2013, this guy's had 2 fights. This is going to be number 3 in a 4-year period. That's not a lot of fights. That means there's a lot of injuries and so on. But I'm going to have to pick the guy who's been a veteran of the sport, been around a long time, and on his occasions when he does really show up, he's a really, really talented fighter. Siyar last time out against Brandon Thatch, which was 2 years ago, 18 months ago, round about there. I mean, once you get Brandon Thatch in an uncompromising position, he is going to just give you the win straight off there, without even trying to stop the fight or like stop positions where he's going to get dominated. He will give you the neck. He will give you the tap if you can find the position on the ground. Set it up with some nice strikes. I think he caught Thatch with some really nice strikes in that fight, and then eventually once he went to the ground, he took him out from down there. I'm going to pick the guy with the most UFC experience, with the bigger fight experience probably per se. I think that Wilkinson probably, due to the inactivity, I think he might have a chance. We don't know which Siyar is going to really show up. I mean, he does train out at Jackson Winks now, so he's going to come in there with a really solid game plan and just look to put it on Rob Wilkinson. But yeah, I'm going to pick Siyar. I think he can get potential stoppage early. If it goes past your kind of 7-8 minutes, I can see it running out to decision. So I'm going to pick Siyar via decision in this one. Glad to see him back, and hopefully he can fight more often. We don't see him another 18 months in 2019 again. So Siyar via decision there. Obviously there was Marion Renault against Jermaine Durandamy. In that matchup I actually liked Marion Renault, but we will never know now until maybe the future something might happen. So we'll scratch that one off. And in the main event of the night, we have 2 giants. We have Alexander Volkov against Stefan Struve. Your 2 biggest guys in the UFC heavyweight division. I think they both stand over 7 feet tall. And yeah, interesting fight here. I've been going back and forward. I think I'm being lured in by the hometown guy. The Dutch fighting at home. I mean, there's not too many of the Dutch that are actually fighting this card. I think, is he the only one? Yeah, he is. He's the only guy fighting on that card now who's from the Netherlands. So he's got a lot of pressure on him here fighting in his home country. And he's facing someone who has really found his feet in the UFC. When I saw him in Belfast, I personally thought Tim Johnson beat him. He looked like he just had those UFC jitters a little bit, but since then, he was very, very dominant with Roy Nelson. He was picking him off at ease, and yeah, he looked really, really, really solid in that fight. But Roy Nelson is decreasing as a fighter exponentially, so got that win there, and he's obviously got this main event slot here. I think it was a matchup that made sense considering Stefan Struve was winning fights as well. He's a fighter I've always liked watching. Stefan Struve. He always gives it his all, and he's always dangerous. I actually thought he fought this year, but he hasn't. UFC 204 against Daniel Milanchuk, where he won via submission, was his last fight. Knocked out Antonio Silva with a knockout elbow, I should say, last year at the Dutch event in Holland. I'm I'm being lured in by the hometown guy, and I'm trying not to do that because I got caught with that UFC Glasgow where I got lured in, and that's obviously me being patriotic, but I did get lured in, and I was a little bit, that's why I was thinking this card when Jermaine Durandamy was on it, that she had the potential to lose. That's going back to a country where they did well the first time, and then they're coming back the second time with tougher matches than they had the last time. So yeah, in this matchup, it's interesting to see where this is going to go. I think on the feet, they might... I think it's just a very close matchup. I'm just trying to think where both guys are at in their career. I think Volkov, he's definitely got his feet in the UFC now. Looks established, but he has fought 2 guys very low in the totem pole. Stefan Struve, on the other hand, he's, to be fair, he's beat Omielanchuk, who's solid nonetheless. But it's a hard matchup to call this, I think. I've seen people that I've spoke to, they're kind of differing on opinions. I like Aleksander Volkov. I think it's going to be close early on. I can see them exchanging rounds, and it's just hard. I think that they might negate each other with the striking. I can maybe see Struve wanting to take this to the ground and potentially work for submissions down there, but like he did kind of with the Omielanchuk fight, once he got it down there, he was looking very, very, very quickly for submissions, and I think that's where he'll want to keep this. He'll maybe want to initiate the clinch to put Volkov against the cage and look to take him down from there. And then once it's both guys with huge limbs down there as well, so if you put your body parts in compromising positions, I should say, he could potentially catch you in submissions. I think Volkov has submission wins in his victory on his resume as well. I just like Volkov a little bit more. I think if the fight goes a little bit later, I think the accumulation of strikes that he puts, I think he can maybe throw out more output than what Stefan Struve can, and potentially that could catch up late in the fight. But I see this being a very kind of sloppy fight also. So I'm going to go Aleksander Volkov to win a decision in Holland, which is kind of saying a lot. Maybe using, like, both guys have got length here, obviously, for being the tallest guys in the UFC, but maybe keeping him at length and using leg kicks and everything. I think that's the way he's going to win this fight. If he can get off first and be very accurate with his strikes and just, as I say, get off first. But I mean, it's hard picking a guy against the guy from that country, but I think he can do enough to win those rounds and potentially win the fight. So I'm going to go Aleksander Volkov. Not overly confident, I must admit. I'm going to go probably a 49-46 decision there, but I think it could look very, very sloppy. Would actually like to see Stefan Struve win, because I do like watching him fight. So that's my picks there for UFC Fight Night 115 from Rotterdam in the Netherlands. I'll be back very soon for UFC 215 from Canada, up there in Edmonton, Canada, which I'm looking forward to seeing another UFC pay-per-view. So now we're back into the running street of UFC fights. I'm really happy to be back with some predictions, and looking forward. We've got some big fights coming in to finish this year. We're going to have Cody Garbrandt against TJ Dillashaw. I mean, GSP's back. Kevin Lee against Tony Ferguson. Such a great fight. And there's many fights kind of lower down the cards that are really, really intriguing to me. So come follow me on Twitter, Will Martin MMA. Follow the MMA Huddle, my new podcast. Come and support us there. Any questions, come and send us a message on Twitter. Just use the hashtag MMA Huddle, and we'll answer those questions on the show. Until probably the next few days or the next week, I will see you all very soon. Enjoy the fight card when it comes around Saturday, and enjoy your week, folks. Great to be back and great to be speaking to you guys again. All the best. Take care.